Hey everyone, so definitely some stuff I need to kind of sort out. So why not do it here, right? So in the last diary entry, I kind of at the end talked about, the ability to look back on things and to understand how the pieces fell into place and not being able to do that, right? For the future, obviously. And, that's proving to be a little stressful and frustrating right now because as someone that feels like they're very, in tune with their intuition and, also as somebody who feels that they are connected in some way to something else. I think we all are. I'm not special in any way, but I'm very aware of it to the point where it becomes something I'm not sure if I'm over exaggerating the meaning onto or if it's in line with, you know, the harmonization of my energy and whatever's beyond, right? And being able to kind of tap into understanding things, as they say, behind the veil a little bit, or even just, it's sort of like a behind the scenes of sort of like the inner workings of whatever you want to call it, the matrix universe, whatever. I feel like I have that. And as I mentioned, it's only proven in retrospect to myself and just in things that I've encountered. I mean, those are stories for another day, but take my word for it. I feel like I'm pretty in tune with that. Okay. And some of you may relate to that. But I'm finding that it's not a foolproof plan to, having everything go perfectly. And even as I say that, like, it's so silly, right? Because, like, even if, as psychics aside, like, I don't know what I believe about psychics, but even if we're super in tune to reality in the world and our path and all that stuff, our higher self and everything that encompasses, it's a little unrealistic to think that we're going to be able to map out everything moving forward because nothing is perfect. And if we were able to do that, then our intuition and our connection to whatever that is wouldn't really be serving us because we would know everything and we wouldn't have opportunities to stumble and learn, right? So, it's kind of impossible to anticipate everything. However, intuition is a thing for a reason and it's supposed to help guide you. Well, I'm finding that I'm having trouble with the battle between my intuition, which does, in my opinion, or my experience, seem to stem from more an emotional place, and your logic, which sort of stems more from your mental, right? Your brain. And your human self, right? The mental is more human and the intuition is more emotional and spiritual. That's the way I look at it. That's just the way I define it. Those two things battle each other a lot because, and I think I know why, and it's hard to avoid. I'm trying not to make any mistakes. Moving to this new place, trying to have things go smoothly, and wanting things to, and let me say this, knowing that things aren't going to be perfect and knowing that there are going to be hiccups, I'm trying to minimize that damage, right? So my mind gets involved and I think logic is a nice, piece to the puzzle that needs to be there, but I don't know how much of it is taking away from my innate intuition and how much is adding to it. Like, I think there needs to be a healthy balance of both. But what's funny is it seems like whenever I feel an intuitive thing and then I stop and I start to analyze it, it's like, where's that cliff's edge of overanalyzation, right? Because once I go overanalyzation, it almost seems to be exclusively that decision doesn't pan out. And it's tricky because you could look at it as a real negative, like, damn, right? You could beat yourself up. And that's the thing that I have to avoid because that is only going to create shame and self-doubt and really just make me feel low, make me feel like, damn, I screwed up. Whereas maybe I can look at it as there's many other ways to look at it actually, and that's the point here. You could look at it as, oh, it was a learning experience. I got to experience something different if I chose something different, and now I get to understand why that wasn't maybe what I wanted. Or maybe it was better than the other one, and I don't know the way it was better because I can't go back and do the other one. Number 3, or whatever one we're on, is maybe, the point is to remind myself that things aren't perfect. And so no amount of thinking through it can change the fact that some of those things won't go well. Some of them will be surprising in ways that you didn't expect, that you couldn't think about. And, others will just be fine and good. But when I begin to try to overanalyze the decision or whatever it is, I start to put too much pressure on it. Now, what does that mean? How do I balance that logic out back to center and bring the intuition up a little bit? Because I also don't want to act spontaneously, and intuition can be easily mistaken, or I should say spontaneity can be easily mistaken for intuition. You could have this spontaneous urge and do it and say, oh, that was my intuition, but it was really a spontaneous desire or something like that, right? And that's another thing too, to see how I'm even trying to depict what those things are. How do you just stop and just kind of go with the flow? I think that that's really important, and it's something I'm really trying to do, because when those things don't go well, or when I am trying to be perfect, or not even perfect, but when I'm just trying to have things go well and they don't, that creates a lot of, for me, frustration and stress, but also a lot of anger, because I get really mad because I'm trying my best. What do they say about beginner's luck, right? When people are trying new activities, they seem to do well at them, and the people that are really trying to do well don't do well. It doesn't mean that you can't practice something and become really good at it. Training is a real thing. But maybe, overly exerting yourself to be, again, trying to be perfect at it isn't necessarily the way to go all the time. So how do you go with the flow? I don't know. I'm asking you. No, I honestly, I don't know exactly. That's what I'm trying to figure out. This is all about, is how to go with the flow, but also make good decisions to, allow the energy to work for you, but also to help yourself, right? Because we're not helpless, and we're not just mindless and just stepping. I love the Fool, but he steps off into that cliff, right? And I've mentioned that in a video maybe when I started this channel. That's the thing about the Fool, great new beginning, but what new beginning when your leg is broken now? You don't just go blindly into things. It's a delicate balance. I think trying to make the best decision you can, and then going with that decision come what may, and trying to find the peace and the joy in that decision, no matter what it is really the answer. Putting that into practice, not so easy. And I'm finding that, especially when you're in a situation that has more pressure on it, like living in a new place and not having a lot of friends, and not knowing a lot about the area, and on all of the above, right? I mean, it amps it up a lot, and there's more riding on it. It feels, right? But I'm trying to remember that there's only, time is going to do its thing, and I can kind of allow myself that time to just integrate myself, just choose to do things without putting that pressure on it, and just hoping that, those decisions go well. And if they don't, knowing that there'll be other things. It's not easy. So that's where I'm at right now. Okay.